President Yemi Osinbajo denies describing those agitating for restructuring as political jobbers.
Senate cautions protesters demanding resignation of President Muhammadu Buhari to stop heating up the polity.
We have come here to turn to God in confidence and in trust for the dead, so that the dead will have eternal rest, for the wounded, that they may have healing.
Catholic Church holds funeral mass for victims of Sunday Church massacre in Ozubulu, Anambra State.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the protests against President Buhari's absence.
We will also take a look at efforts to develop smart cities in Nigeria. As of today, being Wednesday, 9th August 2017, President Muhammadu Buhari has spent about 92 days in the United Kingdom receiving medical treatment. Of course, his journey to the United Kingdom was not in secret, as he publicly told Nigerians that he needed further follow-up with his doctors.
Indeed, before embarking on the trip, the president complied with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which require him to officially communicate his absence to the National Assembly and then to transmit power to the Vice President, who will act during the period of his absence.
Quite right. It's also to public knowledge that the President has received several delegations in the United Kingdom, ranging from the acting President, officials of the ruling All Progressive Congress Party, that's APC, the Governors Forum, and lately the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, who have all expressed joy on the rapid recovery of the President, attributing it to the prayers of Nigerians.
However, recent protests by a group of Nigerians demanding President Buhari either returns or immediately resigns, having stayed away for over 90 days, have, of course, elicited reactions from a cross-section or indeed a wide spectrum of Nigerians.
Now, the presidency has reacted by describing the protest as an exercise of fundamental rights of citizens to express themselves, but also condemned it as a totally unnecessary venture, and that of which is capable of heating up the polity. In fact, the presidency describes such calls as an irrational assault on the Constitution.
Now, on the program today, we shall raise questions on the merit or otherwise of the protests and whether or not President Buhari has violated any law for being away seeking medical attention. Now, is there any vacuum also in governance?
Well, pertinent questions, Kingsley. Now to the second part of a discussion today on the program. We'll take a look at the challenges of urbanization in Nigeria, as in many countries around the world. The need to actually develop cities that will act smartly, as the name implies in this phenomenon.
Now, well, of course, talking about the existing challenges, they include transport management, pollution and waste control, crime control, law enforcement, maintenance, provision, and first the maintenance of infrastructure, data generation, as well as effective planning and monitoring of social services, including citizens' engagement in governance. Now, the list, of course, is inexhaustible, and that's why we are talking smart cities later today in our discussion segment on the program. You can imagine, for instance, a situation where waste containers, let's just say the waste disposal bins in a city like Abuja, Benin, Sokoto, Enugu, or elsewhere, can electronically inform the waste collection company when they are full, or on the other hand, where information on the traffic situation as well as road crashes can be automatically sent to response agencies and as well as motorists, advising on alternative routes to take the case, as we indicated, of a crash.
That will be technology in its own advanced stage.
That's
In
right.
all entirety. If you know that Internet of Things is something that everyone has already latched on, about 70 million users, especially in this part of the world, are said to be connected to activities on the Internet. So how much more we can use technology to do and build cities is what we'll be taking a look at. Well, the bottom line is to interrogate how today's cities can actually provide healthcare, housing, education, transport services, security, as well as recreation, and provide public participation in use of science, technology, and digital innovations.
Now, what are the requirements for achieving this initiative, and how is Nigeria strategizing to transform its cities to become smart? These are some of the questions we shall also be raising with our guests, who are, by the way, rounding off later today, I believe, an international summit on smart cities, which is taking place here in the Federal Capital Territory.
This is Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for joining us for today's edition. And this is coming to you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA.
My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I join my colleague Blessing and also welcome you to this edition of the program, in the course of which we shall have our regular companion segments. In the meantime, we are going over to join our colleague right here with us, Ronke Kolawole, for the morning news. Hi, Ronke.
Hello, Kingsley. Good morning, Blessing.
Good morning, Ronke.
And welcome to the news. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has expressed surprise at the news reporting Chief Ayo Adebayo as saying he described those agitating for restructuring as political jobbers. A press statement signed by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Laolu Akonde, indicates that at no time did the acting president say those asking for restructuring were political jobbers looking for appointments. The video, audio tapes, and full text of his speech at the National Security Summit, organized last week by the Department of State Services, are publicly available, while several newspapers and media outlets reported Professor Osinbajo's said speech last Wednesday. Not one of the publications made such a blatantly false claim that he said those asking for restructuring were political jobbers. The acting president himself have expressed support for state police based on the community policing model, advocated for devolution of powers to the states and fiscal federalism. Besides, the Buhari administration has been active in supporting state rights in several ways, including fiscal matters, and will continue to do so. Meanwhile, the Senate has cautioned the sponsors and participants in the protest by a coalition of civil society organizations demanding for the resignation of President Muhammadu Buhari over his medical vacation in the United Kingdom to stop heating up the polity with their unwarranted demands. In a statement, Chairman Senate Committee on Media and Publicity Affairs, Dr. Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, the Senate said the protesters were only creating unnecessary tension in the country and seeking to divert the attention of the presidency from the economic and security issues which are being tackled with vigor. The Senate noted that the president had complied with the provisions of the Constitution, which stipulates that he must hand over to the vice president and duly inform the two chambers of the National Assembly about his medical vacation. To other issues now, the Nigerian justice sector has continued to seek ways of entrenching the system that will protect and promote human rights and fast-track the country's economy. A three-day national summit on justice got underway in Abuja to chart a new course for effective justice dispensation.
The policy, in broad terms, is expected to set out a common vision and provide the guidelines for promoting an effective and efficient administration of justice.
The objective of this policy is to close the gap. Ordinary Nigerians should see justice services delivered to them in a way that is satisfactory and meet their expectations.
The largest congregation of Nigerian engineers, Korean Assembly, has been held with a core of government professionals to practice engineering according to acceptable and prescribed standards, abiding by the ethics of the profession. Representatives of Acting President and Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogunaya, made this assertion at the Assembly in Abuja.
To place the engineering family at the center of national development.
My conviction that this occasion will provide stakeholders the desired opportunity to brainstorm on the gamut of issues associated with entrepreneurship, manufacturing, and indeed construction.
Desirous of raising the profile of engineering education in Nigeria and indeed in Africa in the long run, the Council decided to benchmark Nigerian engineering qualifications against those of nations with high international standards.
In the meantime, individual and collective efforts at continuous capacity building has been advocated as tools needed to help the civil service retain its relevance in a fast-changing and highly technological working environment. The advocacy was made by discussants at the 2017 Public Service Lecture.
With the most significant direct impact on the life of the Nigerian citizen.
Going apace with the change mantra of the current administration requires the civil service to be innovative. The time has come for the service to live up to its mandate of citizen-centered service delivery or become a forgotten monument.
And taking a bit of political matters this morning, ahead of the August 12th National Non-Elective Convention, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has inaugurated a committee for smooth conduct of the event. The party also inaugurated 2 standing committees on discipline and reconciliation drive.
You know that this is the time to build. This is the time to contribute. Some will contribute their energy, some with their resources.
This must be done properly. Therefore, no manipulation.
It's an all-encompassing process to bring everybody back on board.
That those who have left, or those who are never in the party before, that we will find ways and means to bring them back.
Following the bloodbath at St. Philip's Catholic Church, Ozubulu in Anambra State, the Catholic Bishop of Onewi Diocese, Most Reverend Hilary Okeke, has held a funeral mass to pray for the peaceful repose of the dead and for the quick recovery of the wounded. The mass, held at an uncompleted building within the St. Philip's Catholic Church premises, was attended by Reverend Fathers, sisters, as well as other members of the church. Maureen Okeke has the details.
We have come here to turn to God in confidence and in trust for the dead, so that the dead will have eternal rest, for the wounded, that they may have healing, for the parents and the families, that they may be consoled and helped in every way, for the parish, that the parish will have confidence in God, and even though they have gone through this suffering, that they will still know that God has not abandoned them.
And that is the latest development from our news desk. We thank you for being there. We now go on commercial break. Blessing and Kingsley will be back after that.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Chivita Active Fruit Juice. Unique quality blend of 6 citrus fruit juices. Want to dance? Chivita Active. Be active. Do more. Get more out of life.
House of Cheese.
If you just joined us, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Time now to take a look at the business reports. Now, economic observers are of the view that strategic reforms taking place in Nigeria's capital markets are actually reaping favorable results. Let's find out more details with Amina Nojim.
Hello and welcome to the Business News segment. Over the years, the Nigerian Stock Exchange and Security Exchange Commission, SEC, have embarked on reforms and practices aimed at making Nigeria's capital market world-class and entrench international best practices. Recently, the NSE announced the launch of a new market surveillance platform powered by SMART, Nasdaq's flagship surveillance solution. The technology, among other things, is to enable the NSE to monitor market proceedings, detect and deter manipulative tendencies, gather intelligence, and carry out traders' monitoring and analysis. This is in addition to processing significant volumes of market information in real time to detect anomalies. In November 2015, the e-dividend was introduced as part of efforts to address the challenge of unclaimed dividends by investors.
To make sure that we deepen the market, transparency is there, trust and honesty is being played out by both the investors and the operators. So this is the reason. And more so, the e-dividend platform, I can tell you that many investors who hitherto thought their investment has gone are reaping from their unclaimed dividend. Many people are getting their investment, that is outstanding dividend that have been declared but not getting to the ultimate investor. They are getting it right now.
And the equities market opened on Monday on a bullish note as the NSE OSHA index appreciated by 0.27% to close at 37,525.38 basis points. Next is a graphic summary of how tradings fared on Tuesday. That wraps up the Business News segment. I am Amina Nujaim. Good Morning Nigeria continues.
Many thanks, Amina Najim. Up next is our newspaper review.
Hi, Bayo Toby, our newspaper reviewer, is here with us for today's edition of the review segment. Bayo, morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning.
Okay.
Morning, Blessing.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. All right, let's begin our review this morning by taking a look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Tribune has a very busy front page with a number of headlines. Let's go from top to bottom. Immediately below the nameplate, you have a window of 4 headlines. The restructuring. Oshibajo denies calling agitators political jobbers. That's an inside page story at page 38. TSA, federal government withdraws suit against 7 banks. That's on page 7. And Okowa, that's governor of Delta, heads PDP National Convention Planning Committee. And Abuja Kaduna rail line now generates 1 million naira daily. That's according to Amechi, Minister of Transport. Details can be found inside on page 31. Now, you also have a story there that's said 2017 Obafemi Awolowo Prize for Leadership. Our Foundation calls for nominations. That's on page 2. And Senate to protesters. Leave Buhari alone. He has violated no law. And 1 injured as police tear gas protesters and with dispersed miscreants and hoodlums. That's according to the police. Details can be found on page 4. Boko Haram kills 31 fishermen in Lake Chad Basin. And northern governors visit Maiduguri, donate 360 million naira. Details of the story can be found on page 10. Now, underground ritualist den uncovered on Lagos-Abeokuta Highway, and mob sets suspects ablaze. You can see the photograph there of some of the persons. That's a crowd at the scene of what has been described as an underground den of ritualists at Abadi Ajala bus stop in the Ijai area of Lagos. That's actually a storm pipe, not an underground den. All right, bless you.
All right, Kingsley. I'll start off with This Day newspaper. Leading for the This Day newspaper, we have Senate stands with Buhari, tells protesters to leave him alone. There are two writers to that story, says he hasn't violated any law, and the police disperse, resume or resign demonstrators. The story is right there on the front page, but continues on page 9. Inside, you have the NLC president, over 3 trillion naira pension fund invested in bonds, treasury bills. That story is trending on page 12. Two other stories, the one just beside the photograph of governors of Kaduna, Katsina, Borno, and Sokoto. We feel your pain. That's a photograph now. That took place at the government house in Maiduguri yesterday. But the story just beside it, the INEC seeks more powers to reject candidates, where the writer accuses judiciary of aiding electoral impunity. That story continues on page 9. But just above that, there are two headlines. Federal government withdraws suit against 7 banks over TSA, TSA's treasury system. Single account system that is operated. The story starts right there but continues on page 10. And on health matters, you have Lassa fever kills 2 in Lagos. That story is trending on page 9 as well. Still on Buhari, we have on the front page of the Daily Trust has medical trip. Buhari hasn't violated any law. That is coming from the Senate. That story is trending on page 3. Okay, Bayo, let's let you have your comment here, then we'll take a look at the stories.
The resume or resign protest was forcefully dispersed by the police yesterday. You will recall that on Monday, the police, in fact, accompanied them to carry out their protest. However, the spokesperson for the FCT Police Command, Anjulari Manza, says that miscreants had infiltrated their fold, and when they were asked to disperse, they refused, and they had to use water cannon and tear gas. The protesters say that many of them were injured. Nevertheless, they are not deterred. They will continue. And the Chairman's Senate Committee on Media, Alhaji Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, says that the protesters should leave Buhari alone because he has not violated any law of the land. He says there is no law that bars him from staying outside the country for medical treatment even beyond 90 days. The latest on Ozobulu, the Cardinal Pontiff, Pope Francis, says he is deeply saddened by the Ozobulu attack, and he has invoked the divine blessing of consolation and strength upon the Diocese of Nnewi. Meanwhile, an aide to one Aloysius Ikeogwonu, alias Bishop, who was the person that was targeted by the government who invaded the church, has denied that his boss is not a drug baron. He says that he is an estate developer and an importer of spare parts and beverages from China. He said he's in fact the chairman of Ebube Chukwuzo Foundation, and he has in fact built 3 cathedrals in those areas and held so many indigent persons, and they are just giving him a bad name just to hang him. Meanwhile, a crowd laid siege and unfortunately mobbed and killed and set ablaze 2 persons. This was when a sweeper had an alarm from a woman from a tunnel end at Obadi Ijai end of the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway. Before the police could arrive, 2 of them had been mobbed, 3 others were rescued. The Commissioner of Police, Lagos, Fatai Osheni, has warned Lagos residents that jungle justice is not the way. Spectators there say the woman was brought out subconscious. Others say there was no woman that was brought out. So we have to be very careful about rumor and reacting to it. Sometimes people act on information that may not necessarily be correct.
All right, Bayo, that's with that story. But of course, you recall what happened in 1998. at Toyota bus stop in Lagos, Clifford Oji. You know, that's a very busy location there that connects to a spare parts market. And people were walking, you know, going about their daily business, day and night, by the way, until it was discovered that he actually had maintained, you know, some location where he was kidnapping and then also
brutalizing
actually, you know, they were cannibalizing them. All right, that's a busy part of Lagos. Sometimes, you know, Lagosians are not very attentive to their environment. All right, let's go to the Blueprint newspaper and check out the front page stories. Some of the stories you have there, you also have them on the front pages of others, including, for instance, the lead story. It says, Senate to Charlie Boy-led protesters. Buhari won't resign, and says president hasn't violated any law. And then below the nameplate, PDP raises committee on OBJ, Atiku, Saraki, and Kwankwanso's return. That's on page 6. Of course, Obasanjo had left the party a couple of years ago. Saraki advocates employment-driven education curriculum. That's on page 14. And IPOB can't stop Anambra poll. That's attributed to Governor Obiano. Details on page 6. Explosion causes panic at MMIA. MMIA stands for Murtala Mohammed International Airport, and that's in Lagos. And then Lassa fever case 2 in Luth, and 100 staff under observation. Details can be found on page 18. At the foot of the front page of Blueprint, Northeast rebuild. Northern governors donate 360 million naira to Borno. Page 5 in greater detail.
Quickly, Kingsley, there is a story on agriculture, which should have us getting worried again. Daily Trust, this story as a lead. Farmers maize import. Just below that, you have also in the front page there, 47.2 billion naira, $487.5 million traced to Dezani. Dezani's former. Crosses 13 trillion naira in 34 months. That's the story with the Daily Trust. Kingsley, you see how the
look at the punch on the right away. Some of the stories, of course, we have already indicated. We have found from other front pages. The lead story has to do with what is happening at Luth. The doctor and others infected as Lassa fever under surveillance. The story is in greater detail on page 9. Now, 2 earpiece copies just beside the nameplate of the Punch says banks kick as federal government withdraws hidden $793 million TSA suit. And massacre. Restructuring debate important and proponents, not jobbers. That's according to acting President Oshibajo. PDP woos Obasanjo and others. So you have on the front page there, the photographs on the front page. It says Buhari knocks for federal government as police assault resume protest. Knocks, of course, you can see that we have it some portions of the front page. Tribune is also cropping in there. But, well, of course, you have other headlines that you can see right away. Federal government will complete Lagos Ibadan next week. That's according to the minister. Plus, a policeman who burgled Jonathan's house gets 7 million naira bail.
Yes, the policeman was arraigned before a magistrate court. He had pleaded not guilty, and he is to have his day in court in October. Meanwhile, he has been granted bail to the sum of the amount that was indicated there, 7 million. Meanwhile, 89 broadcast stations risk losing their license on broadcasting on the frequency modulation band. This is because they have ceded their transmitter power of 200 kilohertz. The National Broadcasting Commission had given this warning that FM stations should revert to agreement reached in 2010 during the code review at Uyo, and therefore any station that continue to transmit beyond the 200 kilohertz city-based on the FM modulation frequency stand the risk of losing its license.
All right, Bayo, that's the most we can take. Thank you for being here today. See you again tomorrow, Thursday.
Thank you.
All right. So good morning, Nigeria. The network service of the NTA. We take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll be dealing with a story that you have found on the front pages of the papers today. Return or resign? What are the issues?
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Gerula. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
This week, your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull, takes a swipe at how we think we belong among the human race while others do not belong.
Albinos, a hunchback, and everyone else in their category. Anywhere they enter, there's bad luck.
Simply because they possess certain genetic differences from the majority.
What do you want?
I want to buy banana.
Please go.
Why we all feel pain, joy, and human blood flows in all of us.
Granny Pepper went to your shop.
It's a restaurant.
Yeah. Any naming ceremony names you want to give to it, give to it. I does not care.
Keep a date with Professor John Bull. This episode, titled, Not One of Us.
So these people not give the work? They said the post is no longer vacant.
Over and out. Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Now to kickstart the first part of our conversation this morning. President Buhari has been in London for the past 3 months receiving medical attention, having earlier informed Nigerians of his intention to return to the United Kingdom for a follow-up. Before proceeding on the trip, the president complied with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution by transmitting a letter to the National Assembly, informing them of his absence and asking the vice president to act during the president's absence. Governance has continued to go on under the leadership of acting President Yemi Osinbajo, and many believe there is no vacuum and have continued to pray for the president as they eagerly await his return. The acting president, governors, APC leaders, and many others have visited President Muhammadu Buhari in London and confirmed that he is getting better. The recent protest by a group calling for the president to return or resign has therefore been greeted with mixed reaction. That is the focus for our discussion, the first part this morning.
All right, Blessing, thank you very much. We have two guests with us here in the Abuja studios to discuss the protests over the absence of the president. And first, we'd like to welcome both our familiar officers on Good Morning Nigeria, the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media Publicity, Madam Garba Shehu. Madam Garba, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you. Nice being here.
All right. And then we also have a legal practitioner, as we indicated, a regular face also on Good Morning Nigeria, Kaude Ajulo. Dr. Ajulo, a pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's begin with Madam Garba Shehu. Of course, you were on the news a couple of days ago. We responded in the first instance to the protest when the protesters began on Monday, saying that the president should either return or resign his office. Has anything changed in terms of your perspective on what the protesters are demanding, that the president has been away for over 90 days, so he should leave, or otherwise they should return?
We have been careful in our reaction to all of these things because this is a government of human rights, a democratic government. At every point, at every turn, the president and the acting president, vice president and now acting president, have counseled, have warned law enforcement all the time that lawful protests, so long as they are peaceful, they should not be impaired, they should not be interfered with. They are allowed by the law And so therefore, the problem we have with this one is that it has no basis in law, because there has to be a reason why, you are bringing this, forward. As you said in the introductory part, the president has taken all of the steps that are necessary, that have been prescribed by the constitution of this country, which is to say that he has handed over power to the vice president, and the National Assembly has been duly informed. And so therefore, government runs, no vacuum, and that there's absolutely nothing that is wrong that people should start complaining about.
All right, Madam Shehu, you also, in part of your response, at least while taking a look at what the protesters were seeking, you said they were actually expressing the freedom of expression, which is part of the Constitution as well. But would you say they have crossed the line in any way with this protest by asking, where is our president?
They cross the line because the basis for the protest itself is absent in law. I'm saying that the freedom of expression allows the expression of views through protests, as they have done. The problem is that we have seen that this is a protest that is motivated mainly by motives that are selfish and political. The constitution of the country is quite clear about what ought to be the process. The president has done what is right, as I have said a short while ago. I think difficulties in the past had arisen because you have had situations, leaders not wanting to do what the constitution has said, not vacating and handing over power to their deputies as the law has done. This is a president that is entirely different, law-abiding leader, and he says, this is what I want to do, and he has taken leave. So the vice president has a field in as acting president. Government is running fully. All of the ministers put in place by Mr. President, all of the chief executives of the government agencies are running, their own organizations. Parliament we just received a huge backing from them. They weighed in on the side of the president yesterday. So there's nothing other than to say that perhaps people just want to make maybe some noise for the sake of it.
All right, Madam Gabashew, thank you very much. We'll come back to you later on in the course of the conversation. Kaide Ajulo is what Madam Gabashew indicated, that there is apparently no basis in law for the demand of the protesters who are saying, "Look, President Muhammadu Buhari, return or resign." What is your thought?
Well, unexpectedly, I think I have to go with him in this situation, because we are talking of constitutional situation. We are talking of what the Constitution provides for, and in this situation, that's why you see that the first paragraph, the first section of the Constitution talks about anything you have to do, it has to be done in accordance with the provision of the Constitution. And that is why, though Malam Shehu Garuba may be, at least being a politician, may be a little bit lenient with words, but we have to be sincere when it comes to this, particularly when you're asking that the president must resign. The question we should ask is this: where is the basis? Where is your foundation? I believe those who are making this, they seem to be misguided and wanting to really explain the position of law to them. As it is today, we have the president, we have an acting president. I know most of them, as God will have it, they happen to be my friend. And most of them call that the other time in 2010 and 11, you are one of those that took to street in Abuja. And I said, look, we need to try to explain what happened then and now. As at that time, what we are saying, President, as late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, must transfer power to the deputy, which he refused to do before traveling. But in this one, he has said to what the Constitution asks him to do, and why, what is the basis. And I must say this, as it is, though many people may not believe this, there is right to protest. That is what we call the Constitution. But any right to promote illegality on constitutional act is a treasonable offense. I know many people may not believe this. That's why I have to tell them. They are unwittingly trying to go against the law, which may cause another thing. Fine.
In what way were they doing that? They sought the the need to protest in that manner. Which
Let me tell you something. You may saw the need to protest, but in a situation that you are promoting and you saw the need for somebody to commit felony, to commit arson, to commit this, particularly when you are talking, when it's against the constitutional provision, then something is wrong.
All right, well, but let's back up a bit and then return to the period that you referred to a moment ago. That was sometime in 2009, you know, when the health of the former president Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, began to deteriorate much more visibly up until 2010. Yeah. So you're saying now that the analogy to that era is misplaced in the current circumstances.
Exactly.
And what is the basis for that again, for the benefit of our viewers?
That's at that time?
Yes. No, what is the basis for stating that the analogy to the Yar'Adua situation is misplaced in the current circumstances?
Okay, like I put it, during the Yar'Adua, he went for medical vacation as this scenario. But as at that time, the constitutional provision, particularly section 145, is to the effect that for you to go to leave the country, particularly within such scenario, you must transmit letter to the National Assembly, which Umaru Musa Yar'Adua refused to do us at that time. And what we did...
Well, he didn't do.
He did not do.
Declined to do.
He declined to do that. There is no any letter transmission. And you know that one nearly caused constitutional crisis where we're asking who is not acting, where the power lies. Is the president needs to be running Nigeria from abroad and so forth. But in this scenario, and that is why we took to street to raise the issue that you must transmit that power. And you can see what really happened. That's why we have this doctrine of necessity that the day was saved by the National Assembly as at that time. But in this instance, the first time and the second time, the president left for medical vacation, did what needed desirable, did what the Constitution asked him to do. So as at now, you don't expect me or anybody to now go to the street to be agitating, to be promoting what was not provided.
In other words, Blessing, what Kayode is also saying is that there appears in the current circumstance to be no need to activate the so-called doctrine of necessity.
Absolutely, no need. We have an acting president who is running the affair of the country. We have the executive, the cabinet running it, and as at now, nobody has complained. And that's why I'm saying anything. If there should be anybody to complain about this issue, must be from the cabinet, that's the Federal Executive Council. That is what the section 144 talks about. But as at now, they seem not to be doing it. The reason why they have not done that, I may not know. Maybe once they are satisfied, I think that is why they have that constitutional power, and only them, nobody else, not me or you.
Well, Mr. Ajula, the beauty of democracy, at least following what the Constitution prescribes for us. Now, is there a time limit for the president's resumption? Having transmitted this letter to the lawmakers.
Nothing of such. That is another thing we need to get. It could be. That is why, you know, one thing is this, and we have to know one thing. We need to take recourse to some other country. The only time, I believe, to my knowledge, was what happened in 2006 in Israel. When this area Sharon, as at that time, in their own constitution, talked about 100 days. And as at that time, the president was in coma, and that is what was used. And I believe maybe that is what everybody is thinking, but this is Nigeria. We have no limit of the time the president should be away. And as it is, Nigerian constitution has already made it so clear that there will be acting president. Acting president will continue to act as long as when the president will return. That is, I'm not the one saying this. That is Nigerian constitution. And we have in many institutions of government today that we have acting chairman, acting this that have been running. Nobody has raised issue. Then why? I see this more as politics, which I believe it should be allowed. This is democracy. But my worry, as a lawyer, it is my duty to educate what's supposed to. But this issue may lead to criminal liability.
As it is, just before we come to Garba Shehu, you just discussed now with regard to the president, the same rule will apply to a state governor. Even though we had seen sometime in the past, not in recent years though, but at the early stages of the Fourth Republic, when some governors, on account of the frosty relations they had with their deputies, whenever they were proceeding on vacation, they handed over to the speaker. We had all those kinds of illegalities. But is it material again, to go back to the Yaradua instance that happened slightly under 10 years ago, because at the point, before the protesters poured onto the streets, and then we had the doctrine of necessity enacted by the National Assembly, the president appeared to have been incommunicado. And when he signed, that's the President Yaradua, when he was alleged or believed to have signed some documents, now the documents did not appear to have been under his hand. It seemed to have been some, pre-prepared signature or something. Those were the issues that we had to deal with at that time. But the question is it material on this occasion that at least from time to time, President Buhari has been seen by a number of delegations coming from Nigeria and elsewhere in the UK?
Well, I wouldn't like to address that, and I have my reason. Because as it is, I even believe that it's an overkill as at now to be expecting the president to even be seen, to be talking, or to be doing anything. Because with that constitutional provision, once you are just stepping aside, your acting president is there to do whatever it is. And that is why, even as at that time during Yaradua, even if Yaradua is incommunicado, as you mentioned, but at the way that he has done the needful, he has really transferred power to the acting president. I'm sure somebody like me will not go out to really demand that where is the president, because you can't have two chief executives at the same time. As at now, acting president is working. Acting president is in charge. And the president, do I believe as a politician, he needs to communicate with his people. He needs to let them know that he is. But I'm sure the constitutional provision never really asks him to really do anything as at now, until when he returns.
All right, Mr. Dino, thank you very much. Let's get back to Malam Garbashewu. Now, you were talking, you made mention of issues being politicized in one way or the other. Issue of the president's medical status. There have been some kind of gap in communication about the actual state of that's actually fueling this agitation or giving this political outlook to this issue.
No, on the contrary, I think that opposition politicians are always there to take advantage of every situation, and they see an opportunity, and which they are using to kind of mislead the people. Otherwise, focus ought to have been on an important precedent, I will call it, even though Mr. Ajulo has said eloquently that the Constitution has said this is what is to be done in circumstances such as this one. I am not aware that any president in the past in the country had voluntarily handed power to his deputy and gone on vacation. I'm not sure it is on record. I'm aware that I can report this to you, that I'm aware that a former vice president on a visit to the acting president had said, I served the president for 6 years, and not once did he vacate the office to allow me to act on that particular occasion. And so therefore, I think that the president has, as I said, set a precedent. It's something that ought to be commended, appreciated, and carried forward as a practice. However, as I said, the opposition is there to project us as failures. If they say we are successful, then why do they seek to supplant us? So we understand that it is opposition politics. Other than that, and looking at some of the faces on television that you saw protesting, you know that they are coming from political antecedents also, political actors. And I think that there may be weaknesses in many sectors of authority, but government is able to know that there are people behind some of these things, and we know who they are.
All right. Well, Malam Garbashewu, I mean, the point has been made that the governance is ongoing and so on and so forth. But is governance really ongoing? Is anything suffering on account of the absence of the president with an active president in situ?
Well, the acting president is doing the best he can to fill in, and I think the president is fully appreciative of this. The cabinet meets regularly. The budget is being implemented. 2016 budget was implemented up to 90%. That's a huge success. In the past, budget implementation had been up to 25–30%. We had failed budgets in the past, but this time around, everything is working. So, are we missing the president? Yes, we are missing the president. We would love he's here with us. and we hope he will soon be with us. He's a leader, a father figure, and the father of the nation. So, but beyond that, the president himself understands that the political authority is governed by constitution of the country, and as much as possible, he's doing just what the constitution says he should be doing.
All right. Now, we have had all kinds of speculations with regard to the likely return date of the president, including some bettors who have opened an online betting arrangements for, I'm sure probably, you know, that's the National Lottery Regulatory Commission. Some Lottery Regulatory Commission, you know, might have to give us an indication of how, you know, that arrangement has gone. But because we had, you know, in the past it was coming, you know, some person saw him and said, no, it will be coming very soon, and so on and so forth. Perhaps this has also led to the anxiety expressed by some of those protesters and so on and so forth. What is the current state of health of Mr. President? Yes, we understand what has been said, but as of today, what can we say?
Well, again, I must be quoting others because I myself have not seen him lately. But believing the party chairman, Chief Oyegun, the wife of the president, and my colleagues who are around with him, the president has regained his health. But he needs energy, he needs stamina, physical strength to be fully back in office. Will he return soon? Yes, everybody says so. The acting president said the president will come back soon. We read all manner of dates at the betting, and it is funny. The other day I was visiting a newspaper that had done 3 projections and missed all 3. And I said, look, we're supposed to be telling you this story, and you're the ones who are informing us when the president will come. That's why you're not getting it right. But I believe that when the time is right, when the president is ready to come home, Nigerians will be told, and you don't get ready to receive him.
Well, you just made mention of the visits and some of the information you got yourself. So how much reassurance or assurance are Nigerians getting or intending to get over this condition by the visit that we've had so far? Maybe perhaps just at some of the disconnects that is making this furor over his return or resignation.
Well, my sense is that there can never be enough reassurance. There can never be enough of, in fact, for people, even if they hear the voice of the president, they want to physically touch him. They want to hold him and say, well, is this the man? You know, so therefore, doubts will always be there. The president had recorded a video message in the past, and some people said, no, it's a make-believe that people were using puppets to project images. So there will always be the doubtful, you know, the doubting Thomases, and the cynical few, and they're entitled to their view. But the fact of the matter is that we have a president for whom the worst is behind him, and for the nation. So therefore, we look forward to his early return and his continued service to the nation.
Mr. Ajulo, at least I know we've talked about the present status for those who want to believe and those who choose not to believe. Now, is there a place in law now that mandates the president to actually disclose more than what he has already told the nation about his present health status? Well, and what they should continue to hold on to?
I want to believe that there is law and there should be law for that, particularly against the background that the president, though I'm sure many people have been saying is a private citizen, he is not. And particularly, even if he's a private citizen, except I will be informed today that his treatment so far has nothing to do with public fund. And based on that, I think it is expected for the president to disclose what actually is the issue and the treatment and what has been used to treat him. I remember 2 days ago, somebody from a very unusual quarters told me that, do you know that sickness could be very funny? That do you know that as it is today, particularly as this thing has generated issues in Nigeria, do you even know that even if this sickness you asked for 20 odd blocks, Nigerian government should be ready to give it out to ensure that the president is well. Though it may be funny, it may be on the very another side, but Nigeria, I think we believe this is democracy. Whatsoever any amount has been taken from the Nigerian post must be known. And within that, I think there should be a provision that should make the president to disclose his the information to Nigerians, particularly his employers, let me put it that way. And though I know many people may raise this issue that, look, this is the president, we're talking of issue of security, concern and co, revealing that maybe. But I think it is for them to explain that, not Nigerians that should be looking for excuse for why issue of Nigerian president health should not be made known to public. I believe it should be.
All right, well, Mr. Jula, just to return again to the issue of, the ongoing arrangements that we have with regard to the fact that we have an acting president. Again, in terms of the legality and constitutional provisions, is the acting president hampered or hobbled in any way from performing the full functions of the office, of course, from what we have seen so far?
Well, with our constitution, once you're acting president, you take all the full power, full control, and what is expected, both power, function, and duty of president should be. And I want to believe that vice president, acting president is not hampered in any way. Recently, the acting president even directed the army chiefs to relocate to Maiduguri to face Boko Haram, and I believe that is one of the things. And apart from that, the Chief Justice of Nigeria recently, you know, that it was even presented to the Senate and sworn in, and I'm sure these are the things. But I believe it is for the acting president, though they may have their own arrangement, but I think the acting president has full control and powers of government and should dispense it. If there should be any problem with that, I think we should face the acting president to say, look, you are not acting properly. This is what it should be.
All right. Now, what do you make of the role of the National Assembly, in particular the Senate, what they have said? We saw the headlines on the front pages of today's newspapers, and the Senate saying, look, listen, as Garbashev said, they're waiting, on behalf of the executive branch, and they say, look, there's no violation in law by the president's absence, provided he had done what he did. What message does this send out to Nigerians, and in particular those who are organizing the protests?
I think, National Assembly is just trying to one way or the other support what we should all know. And I remember you put one question to Lajishi some minutes ago about who's fault for most of this information. I want to believe the agency of government, particularly like NOA and others, need to do some of these things, need to educate the citizenry, not the National Assembly living with all the mirage of problem facing them to be discussing it. I want to see what is the position of NOA. Unfortunately, I must say this, I'm not. This morning, as I was discussing that I'm coming to NTA, and you won't believe my wife was even telling me that, but we have this 90 days clause. I said, where did you say it? You have been with me for long. You're supposed to know. And if such a person should not know, but association should be know this. That's why the majority of Nigeria believe that there is this 190 days clause somewhere that after that president, and I believe NOA. And these are the people that need to be doing that, though NTA is doing his own part. But you need to inform the citizenry. I think this is what is causing most of this concern. Everybody believes 90 days, even everywhere. Everybody talked about that. It is their duty to let Nigeria know that this is what is, so we can face another thing. Of course, we should be concerned, particularly when I have been made to believe that after 90 days, the president should go. And after 90 days, nothing is happening, and those that need to talk, they are not saying it, they are not educating Nigerians. Then you will find out that some people may clap on that to cause some problem. But Nigeria needs to know that this is the issue. And the National Assembly going over to raise that, I don't think is like, I'm sorry I'm saying this, they should have better things to do.
All right.
People voted them in as well, so they should be responding to one of those constituents. All right, from our viewers, we have reactions already. We'll quickly run through the tweets and we'll wrap up with this discussion. From Mike Anyoko, we have this tweet. President Muhammadu Buhari has not violated any law of the land as Chief Executive of Nigeria. It duly handed over to Vice President. He is human and can fall sick. My concern is that the presidency did not handle the matter well. Everything was shrouded, I think, shrouded in secrecy, leading to fake news from opposition.
Now, Dele Jack Solomon has this tweet. Nigeria's constitution calls for a president to be fit and in charge, and the masses have the right to protest his long absence with clear motive. Now, President Buhari duly handed over power to his Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, via a letter transmitted to the National Assembly. The Vice President is performing, no need for protests.
From Sani Michael Omakoji's this tweet: in advanced democracies, peaceful protest is used as collective bargaining for good governance, and there is nothing wrong with it. It is pertinent to stress here that Nigerian people signed social contracts with President Muhammadu Buhari, and as such, he is accountable to us.
Festus Akinboyewa tweets, Nigeria is a nation of law and not a nation of men. Mr. President has not broken any Nigerian law.
From Andrew Ogboro is this tweet: please, let government know we deserve the right to know what we are paying for. The haters of the president should be known. We did not vote for the acting president. We voted for the president.
And then Obianuju tweets, good morning. Resign or no resign. That's a resignation or no resignation. Cannot put food on Nigerian tables. Watching you live from wherever.
Comrade Tomori Abdul has this tweet: we should follow our constitution. If constitution said nothing wrong with it, there is nothing one can do. Constitution is supreme.
Change to progress. Constitution is clear. What is required by President Muhammadu Buhari has been done. All these protests and hula baloo, a pure waste of precious time on an irrelevant topic.
From Jacob, Chile says that the protest is one instance of ignorance of our legal system by some Nigerians.
All right. We also have this one from Sunday Michael Amakoji. President Muhammadu Buhari is for all of us. We love him. We cherish him. But it's quite disheartening and most unfortunate some people are hoarding information about him.
Well, Akin Dada has this tweet: President Buhari should be constructively engaged in good faith. He mustn't resign. He mustn't die in the present health circumstances.
Franklin Former tweets, the body language of the presidency is fueling suspicion on the president's health. Be more open. Nigerians deserve to know the state of their leader, the state of health of their leader.
Well, Festus Akinboyewa is tweeting on what we had already looked into with Yaradua. There was the lacuna because Yaradua didn't transfer power to his vice. Hence the reason the constitution was amended. Now we have acting president. Now,
Obina Agbo tweet says double standard is a big issue in this country. The men in the studio would have had a different view in 2010. You can't act forever.
Law Alpha C has this tweet: I don't think President Buhari has violated the law, but the opposition wants to capitalize on his state of health to rubbish his tenure.
We can't have two presidents, yet President Muhammadu Buhari has been talking to us. Who then is president? Please ask the lawyer there. And why did the police harass those guys yesterday? All right, Secretary Ajulo, let's take this last comment from you with regard to the comments made in that tweet. We have a president who is out on medical vacation, and we have an acting president. Does that mean that we have two presidents?
We have only one president. And I've already made it clear earlier that even if I have my way as a lawyer, there's no need for the president to even talk to anybody. But because being a politician, he has his own fan, he has his own supporter, you need to reassure them that he is on his way, he's coming back. I think that is why. But as it is, we have only one president who is directing the affairs of Nigeria, and that's acting president, pending when the president will return.
And more importantly, for the benefit of a number of our viewers, there is no 90-day limit on the absence of a president or of a governor. That's to say, because the rule that applies to the president also applies to the state governor. We will then require to transmit a letter to the State House of Assembly and indicating that there will be an acting governor in his state. I mean, we saw that in Kaduna not too long ago. In fact, when the president returned from his trip, that's the second trip, and then he said that the Kaduna state governor wasn't available. He was received by the acting governor of the state, who substantively is the deputy governor. So once again, there is no time limitation with regard to the provisions in the 1999 Constitution as amended. Garba Shehu, your closing thoughts on this with regard to some of the comments on the tweets that better manage the information with regard to the president's current status.
I believe that yes, there are issues of national security on matters of full disclosure. There are also matters of privacy, even though you are dealing with the president. I give you this example. When he assumed office newly, lawyers all over the place were telling the president that declaration of assets ought not to be made public. But because there was a given commitment during electioneering, the president said, okay, look at it, and he put it before the public. On the matter of health, I'm not aware that there is any such commitment that has been given. But this is a constitution that is still evolving. This doctrine of necessity, before the last amendment, it was possible for a president not to have handed over given in a given period of time. And it went on and created national tension until all of these demonstrations came together, pressure on the National Assembly, and then they said, look, okay, we recognize the vice president as acting president. So perhaps as more developments come, we probably one day will have a change in the constitution that will compel aspirants to the office to make a full disclosure. But as it is now, it is not a matter of law. Maybe morality, maybe politics, but there's nothing that says that the president must say unless he decides to. And I'm sure that in due course, this is the kind of president who will face the camera and say to Nigerians, this is what I went through, and here is where I am.
All right, but that's the most that we can take. Malam Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity to the President. We'd like to thank you for being with us on this occasion. Thanks a lot for the comments that you have made. We also would like to appreciate Kaide Ajula, a legal practitioner. Thank you for being on the program this morning. And just to reiterate one more time, there's no time limitation. There is no 90-day limit. Then there's no direct analogy between what is happening now with regard to what happened a little under 10 years ago with the late President Musa Yar'Adua. And therefore, there's apparently also no need for the doctrine of necessity. That does it for our first topic on the discussion segment of Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be dealing with the idea of smart cities.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. Now, as a prompt for the next topic, taking a look at developing smart cities across the nation. Challenges with urban cities across the world and indeed Nigeria have led to the desire for more efficient ways of city management using technology as well as other innovation. The concept of smart cities, therefore growing, and Nigeria is not left behind. Let's take this background report as put together by Omotola Omojola.
Population growth and massive rural-urban migration is a major challenge for cities in many parts of the world, where available infrastructure is put under severe pressure. The effect of this in many cases manifests in unpleasant consequences not only on the environment but also on the quality of life of residents of such places. These leave city administrators in difficult situations trying to find solutions to make life easy for citizens of affected cities. To tackle the problem of growing population and urban migration and the challenges attached therewith, there have been different measures to create habitable, efficient and friendly cities. This has led to the emergence of the concept of smart cities, where science, technology and innovation is deployed to design, develop, manage and monitor developing challenges in cities. This concept means that the city is dependent on information and communication technology for day-to-day operations. The benefits of smart cities implementation are enormous, as many sectors are impacted positively, such as transportation, healthcare delivery, education, amongst others. Nigeria is on the path of adopting the technology of smart cities, but considering the peculiarity of the country in terms of challenges with power supply, infrastructure deficit, low level of ICT deployment, poor maintenance culture, and environmental challenges, how feasible is the proposition? What are the issues to be dealt with, and what plans are in place to achieve this dream? These are questions guests on the program will provide answers to shortly.
All right, thank you very much there, Motola Mojola, for that background report. Now we have three guests with us here in the Abuja studios to elaborate further on the issue of smart cities. First, we'd like to welcome to our program this morning the Honorable Minister of Communications, Mr. Adebayo Shitu. Honorable Minister, pleasure to have you join us.
It's my pleasure being here.
All right. And then we also have joining us on the program today, that's Sir Demola Oladekomo, who is chairman of Smart City. Chairman, Smart City. Sir Demola, pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And then, Blessing, we also have another guest with us, is Dr. Hamadu Toure. Dr. Hamadu Toure is Executive Director of Smart Africa Alliance, and he is the former Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, based in Geneva. Dr. Toure, a pleasure that you're on the program this morning.
Glad to be here.
All right. So let's begin with the Honorable Minister. Let's we listen to the background report. And what is a smart city?
Thank you so much. The concept of smart cities arose out of developments of cities and of communities and of settlements. You would observe that when there's urbanization, challenges arise, challenges of overpopulation, challenges of inadequate infrastructure, consequently challenges of threats, either threats of, explosion, human explosion, or challenges of, too much go-slows, inefficiencies generally. And of course, there would also be challenges of competition. If a city is not smart, if a city is not being run efficiently, if a city has blockages and all of that, the possibility of it having, investors coming in, to invest would be, completely reduced. So the whole concept of, smart city is to ensure that cities become efficient. Transportation goes on smoothly. There's, power supply regularly. Homes are available to take care of everybody, and so on and so forth. So it's a new concept that has become a revolution all over the world, and Nigeria is just trying to catch up with this because all those consequences of urbanization, are available in, Nigeria. You will recall that of all Nigerian, cities, it is perhaps only Abuja that is properly planned. There are adequate number of roads. Water system is almost perfect. Electricity, of course, is not too good, but, mixed sources of energy, are being exploited. And the transportation system, the CCTV, system, and all of that to ensure that from, for instance, a board, you can monitor the traffic situation in the country. You can monitor criminal activities in hideouts, through use of CCTV and so on and so forth.
Honorable Minister, for smart cities to operate like you've just indicated in the different areas you think we will be riding on, are we ready for smart cities?
Well, we are ready for civilization.
Going from the traditional means of actually running some of the system you have listed.
Look, we are ready. At least we have an Abuja city which is being properly run. There are enough number of roads. There are, at every intersection, there's electricity which regulates the movement of traffic. Waste disposal is, improving by the day, and the water system is also, improving, and so on and so forth. And you agree with me that in Nigeria, at least, Abuja enjoys better electricity management. So the city of Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, has been doing a wonderful job, and what we want to do is to not only improve on the efficiency of Abuja as a city, but also to try to replicate these efficiencies in all other cities. And, you know, with the summit that is ongoing, we hope to ensure that city managers, not only at the federal level, but also in the states and the local government, queue into this system. And that is why everybody, you know, is expected to be involved in this new innovation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Sir Demola Aladekomo, let's bring you in here. I mean, smart city would appear to be the infusion of ICT into the management of urban areas. And if that is so, what are the aspects of urban management that are more easily amenable to the deployment of ICT, so that we don't just say, listen, this is a smart city, get into all kinds of things, and then you roll into a logjam?
Okay, thank you. Very good question. The first one that is very basic and critical will be safety and security of the people. A city is meant for people. So the first thing you want to do is to make sure that they are safe and secured. Lives and property are safe and secured. So the first thing you want to use technology for, which is what a smart city is all about, using technology to improve a city, urban management and things like that, is to deploy systems that will ensure that safety and security. Once you get that done, then you now then go to the next level, which will be things like waste management, as the Honorable Minister has mentioned. How do we manage waste system? How do we manage transportation system in that likes? But the new concept of smart city that is coming up is to say, look, if you're going to plan a new city, have a couple of components, a couple of features already planned into that city. But we also know that it's not very easy planning a brand new city like Abuja. You have that just once in a lifetime. But a lot of cities can be changed. And what you are saying is that, look, for us in Africa, we have a lot of issues, especially Nigeria, with population. By 2050, Nigeria is going to become the third largest population, the most populous country in the world. How are we going to manage our cities? So what technologies are we going to be using? And we're saying that today we must start planning those cities. Today we must start putting those technologies in place for our mega cities, Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Ilorin, and Co. And these technologies we must start today. We're already becoming a little bit too late in putting these technologies. How do we safeguard human lives and properties? How are we ensuring that security from terrorism, gang wars, and things like that are curtailed? How do we manage waste? How do you manage even health, transportation? A lot of technologies are coming. What are we going to be doing towards ensuring that we use those technologies to ensure that our people have good quality of life?
Well, what is, when you talked about planning new cities, and of course, as you indicated, the FCT, 41 years old this year, is, of course, the first of its kind in the country. There are other cities that are well laid out, but unfortunately, they suffer from acute infrastructural challenges. What role would ICT play, for instance, in leapfrogging into a smart city with regard to urban renewal? There are some dense locations in some of our cities. What role can ICT penetrate the management of such locations for purpose of renewal?
Very good. Good one. I like to bring in a technical term called polycentric planning. You already have these cities populated, Lagos, Ibadan, Ilorin, and we have quite a lot of them in this country. What you need to start doing now is to plan suburbs, specialized suburbs for development purposes. So you say you take in Lagos, you want to plan the kind of thing we are doing in Lagos, a smart city in Lagos, whereby you take out the markets out of the central communities and you take them to the suburbs, just about 10, 15 kilometers away from the central city, where your infrastructure can easily get to without you spending too much money. So you have a good suburb in there, like you had the Festac city. So you create so many suburbs that you now form, you have the center in there, then you have a lot of police cities all over surrounding it with infrastructure divested. And these technologies, because they are new cities, can then be planned from day one. So your transportation system, your waste management system, security system, lighting system are all planned from day one, and that's what you need to do for Abuja. Abuja is becoming overpopulated right now. If you do not plan those sub-cities, we're going to run into trouble in another 5 to 10 years. The same thing for Ilorin, Kano, Kaduna, Port Harcourt. So, police centricity. And one major reason why we need to urgently do this is the rural-urban migration is going to become a major issue. Right now, 48% of us are living in cities. By year 2050, about 68% of us are going to be moving to cities. So city planners do not have a choice, but to take this as a major issue, not as a problem. There's a major advantage in moving our people from the rural communities to these urban areas. It makes it cheaper for the government to deploy resources, to deploy infrastructure. And then our people, you have better quality of life. There's agglomeration. That means that they have good jobs within the cities, and then the economy will improve.
All right, thank you, sir. Demola Ladikomo. Now, let's bring in Dr. Hamadu Tiri. Now, this smart cities idea or innovation also stem from what's happened in Rwanda, and I'm sure we want to have a feel of what is happening on the continent as well. Well, there was the need to actually make technology part of the national development plans. That is coming from some of the areas the AU leaders actually looked into towards 2063 development plan, right? Now, what is most critical? What should be most critical for nations as they actually plan this? Let's share from the Rwandan experience and what other nations are actually looking towards.
First of all, Rwanda has a very good experience, and the cities are very well planned. There are smart cities is actually the main theme that Rwanda is spearheading within the Smart Africa Alliance. Each country has its flagship project, and Rwanda has smart cities as its plan. And what we can see here is that we want to have African-wide development, creating a single digital market for Africa where we plan together, we execute together, we have economies of scale, we create jobs, and then we solve our own problems. The issues are about infrastructure. Or the need for infrastructure is around $300 billion in the next 10 years. You have the content development of applications, and capacity building. All of those are the 4 main pillars, and then we need to create the ecosystem that goes with that. How governments will work with private sector, how we'll bring in academia, how we'll make sure that the financing sector is also interested in this, so that we, at the end of the day, we create jobs for our citizens. So this is the overall ecosystem we are looking at within the framework of the smart cities.
Okay.
All right. Well, Dr. Tura, just if you have another follow-up to the two others, I want to bring in a new dimension to the conversation. The Honorable Minister of Communications, Mr. Adebayo Shitu. Now, it's smart city idea, is it solely ICT-based, or would there be other stakeholders? And if that is the case, have you had an idea of a stakeholder mapping? Who are these other stakeholders, and what is being done to get them on into this early enough so it doesn't just proceed as a silo idea of ICT?
Well, thank you for this question. Certainly it's not about ICT alone. It's about town planning, it's about architecture, it's about waste disposal and waste management, it's about even electricity supply in cities and towns. It's about even the economy, getting market. Like Mr. Ladikomo mentioned the fact that, to solve the problem of urbanization, and you have to bring in poly cities, and that will mean that you have to move markets and, centers where people congregate. You have to disperse them around existing cities. That is, if you are not just building a new city from the onset. So we are looking into all of this. And like I said, the role of the federal government, and in particular of the Federal Ministry of Communications, is to try to sensitize Nigerians, particularly city planners, state governments, and these professional groups, to ensure that they understand what the whole idea of smart cities are. Once we are able to infuse this into city planning at all levels, it is for them to take it on at the state level. For instance, that the role of state government include the fact that they establish, in fact, the local government's role is to establish markets and all of that, and the state governments will build roads and city planning and all of that. So it is not for the federal government to really be the one in practical terms establishing smart cities. Our own is, this is a new idea going on in the developed world, in the civilized world. We want Nigeria to key into it, and so we are bringing this concept by introducing a summit, a 2-day summit, and we invited all state governments, we invited even local governments. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, local governments are in a state of comatose, but really this should be their, tough with the support of state governments. But in the absence of viral, local governments, the state governments must come into it. And I'm very happy to say that Nasarawa state government has really taken the lead. And I must also add that Lagos state government is also doing a similar thing. In the case of Nasarawa state, government, the governor was there yesterday to give us, an idea of the initiative. He has acquired new land, to build smart cities, divided it into 29 districts, and he plans to use one district as a pilot scheme for even the private sector to come in, study what is on ground, and perhaps adopt any of the 28 other districts to implement this concept. In fact, the private sector also has a very good idea because investment opportunities are available. If any of them adopt any of these districts, it will be for them to provide all the infrastructure. In those days of Festa, we used to hear sites and services. They get the land, the district, develop sites and services, including toilets, including markets, including, shopping malls, including even residential apartments, to be planned in such a way that it will attract new residents to come in and live in this, new settlements.
One of the major challenges, I'm sure you're aware of, Mr. Shetu, that's Honorable Minister of Communications, is we do not appear in Nigeria as of today to have proper city managers. And so it appears worrisome that at the level of local governments, notwithstanding how they've been emasculated by state governments, because they are directly in charge of that. You have urban cities, in local governments. At what point do you then hope to bring them in so that it's not just operating solely at the level of a state governor or the state government?
Well, look, this is a task for all Nigerians, not for the government alone. And I am sure at the state government level, it is the people who vote them in. Pressure must begin to mount on state governors to do things right. Pressure must begin to mount on them to ensure that the local government system is allowed to function. In the absence of viral local government, the state governments, of course, they have been taking over a lot of the jobs of the local governments. And I am happy, for instance, we have given the example of both Lagos State and Nasarawa State. They have taken the initiative by developing this smart city concept. And I want to just appeal that in the interest of our development, state governors must respond positively to this new advocacy. Our role as a federal government agency is to advocate what we see, what we experience in other countries, and particularly that the African Union has taken it on as a special mandate and, asked that governments all across the country must key into it, because it is not enough for Rwanda alone or Kenya alone, to be developed. We are all members of the African Union, and all governments must try to ensure that this idea, trickles down.
All right, Honorable Minister, why not appearing to want to deflate whatever euphoria that we want to hold on to smart cities? For constrained budgets from state governments, you already see a plethora of issues confronting them. Now, what exactly should be done, at least to actually bridge this gap between the ideas from the federal government to spiral down to the... because this is going to involve huge financial commitments, no doubt. Now, what is being done to actually make them consider those things they think as priorities for their state development?
Look, government must also provide investment opportunities. This smart idea is a huge investment opportunity for even governments. If the lands are already there, what Nasarawa State Governor has done is to merely acquire existing land, rename it as a smart city district, divided into 29, take one, spend some money to develop one, that will become an example for investors. For instance, Abuja is, the land in Abuja is already choked up. It is, being almost completely used. Necessarily, as Abuja grows, Abuja will require new lands. Residents who are coming in will require to build new houses, and they will want environments which look smart. And so it will be a huge opportunity for business, even for the state government. So I believe that Nigeria is one country where we are smart. I mean, in terms of our thinking, as this idea grows, a lot more state governments would key into it. I'm happy that yesterday, not less than 6 state governments were actually fiscally represented. And I want to believe that from interactions, they will go back to their various states and start to try and ensure that these new ideas germinate. And is not a time-bound concept. It's a concept that we have started growing yesterday. And I want to believe that it may become a major issue in new elections.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's bring in, I just want to bring in Dr. Hamadu Toure. Hamadu Toure, you were talking earlier about the Rwanda experience. What do we know about where smart cities have taken off, either on the African continent or elsewhere, and what have been the critical success factors?
Well, first of all, the countries where there have been success, they have started by making a plan. In order to do anything, you got to have a plan. And they made a plan that includes everything. The ministers talked about all the infrastructure needs, but you need to also to make sure that you have all the other things that come with it. Government is planning access to schools, making sure that the e-education is there, e-health programs are also implemented. You also have the energy system, the transportation. All of those clusters needs to be implemented. Now, that's what ICT is, a cross-cutting, industry that will be interfacing with each and every one of them. It's a tool. Just like in the Millennium Development Goals or the Sustainable Development Goals, ICT is a tool for each of the sectors to develop. We need to also make sure that private sector is a key partner in this. This is an opportunity for profit making, and therefore private sector can come in and invest and make profit out of it, and in the process jobs will be created. Our task is to make sure that those programs and plans are coordinated within the whole continent of Africa, so that we have real economies of scale, so that we go fast. Africa has reached 1 billion citizens, which makes Africa a real good market.
What challenges have those that have implemented smart cities, what challenges did they face in the course of growing their smart cities?
The challenge is the challenge of coordination of various sectors. Who will take the lead among the sectors? That's really some of the key challenge. And wherever we have seen the head of state who is ICT savvy, or things that move fast. So each of the sectors will take the lead, but making sure that they will also coordinate so that there will be no duplication of efforts. When you need data centers, for instance, to manage all these things, you don't want each of the sector to put up its own data center. You need to make sure that security is there. We don't want every sector to put its own security. It's got to be coordinated. So all of those needs really central coordination, and the
funding,
the environment that will be put in place for that private sector comes in and invests into it. The environment so that the financial sector comes in and sees it as an opportunity for investment and profit making. And there's nothing wrong with that. In the process, you will create jobs, and that's important. And we want to make sure that the applications and services that will be put in there will be designed by our youth in Africa here. We have youth creation of jobs for the youth is one of the key challenges every government is facing, and therefore we want them to be the ones conceiving the applications, the apps, as they say it, that will be used here. In your smartphone, you may have about more than 100 applications. You may be using only 10 of them. Why? Because you didn't make them, certainly, and they were not made for you. or by you, because they were made by others who were not necessarily solving your problems. If we give opportunity for the African youth to create those applications, they will be solving real problems for real Africans.
All right, Saad Aladekomo, now we know different cities across the nation are already trying to tap into this aspect of technology. Of course, the Internet of Things is exposing so many young persons, as Dr. Ture had already talked about. But cashing in on our level of digital literacy to actually drive this, it's important, no doubt. Now, let's take, for instance, the rains have been pouring in torrents in the last how many months? And we had the experience of Lagos. I took that particular experience because I know part of what Lagos was trying to do is developing a smart city. And for some construction going on, reclamation of land and here and there. Having that requisite knowledge to actually drive some of these areas that will impact on the environment is what is needed. How ready and how key is this for us to actually work on this time around, just from what we're trying to look at, taking a look at smart cities? What has Lagos or some other coastal cities been able to do to achieve this?
Okay, very good. These were the technologies we are discussing will come in. We have the geographic information systems that will help us to plan the cities properly. You know, one of the basic things that we said we need to do in a smart city is drainages, waste management. For Lagos, it's just so unfortunate that waste management contributed substantially onto the effects of those flooding. I mean, it was a big disaster.
So the city being all smart in that line?
Yes, it was not so smart, right. But then we are just starting. We know Lagos State, you know, they are very, very proactive, but we could have used a lot of technologies in planning that particular city. It's not too late. The technologies are just coming in. And we're working with Lagos State government in the city we are planning. And we're going to use a lot of technologies, just like the Honorable Minister said. The city we are planning is a 48-hectare city that we are building right now. It's going to be a model for how cities should be planned. We have 7 sub-cities within that major city. So you have one that is like the central business district. So how should the central business district be planned? Even if you are looking at waste management, you are looking at drainage system. Central business district requirement in that area will be different from residential, and it will be different from the market. However, in a situation where you have markets, you have residents, you have central business districts all logged into one, how do you plan the waste? You see, the waste generated at homes are very different from the types of waste you have from industries, even waste from offices. Now, if the smart city concepts do not come in, you're then going to have the kind of problem that Lagos had. We need to find a way to properly plan this city. Take Victoria Island or Lekki. Victoria Island today, you can't see what kind of city is Victoria Island. Is it residential? Is it office? Is it industrial? And all our cities are like that. And that's why we are looking at polycentric development, urban planning, that we need to have specific areas zoned for specific activities, and we need to lay emphasis on enforcement. And once you start building like that, using the technologies to monitor and manage, then that becomes easy. I'd like to take on a question on how local government and the states can manage. With technology these days, you don't need to be a wizard to manage a city anymore. You have all the tools. You have the software that the command and control center, when you have a smart city, you must have a command and control center with a lot of screens. So if anybody is even having a panic attack in his room, you can actually know that person. If there's going to be flooding, your smart city technology.
What power such, if in terms of energy and all of this one, what challenge we have?
You're going to have, and that's part of what smart city technologies will do for you, you're going to have renewable energy. So you're going to be talking about solar, you're going to be talking about wind, you're going to be even looking at gas powered mills.
Well, so Ademola, thank you very much. Let's bring in the Minister of Communications. All this idea of smart city, you know, bring in ICT, get planning and so on and so forth. You've cited the example of Festac. We've also seen Abuja, persons who lived here 20, 30 years ago, would know the difference, or 25 years ago would know the difference between what Abuja was then and what Abuja city and what it is today. And those who were in Festac in the late 70s, you know, from 1978 to up to by 83 or thereabout, know what the difference is today. What, from your perspective, is the likely role of attitude and aptitude to the growth, development, maintenance, and sustenance of smart cities? Look, Honorable Minister, you are in Abuja. 6 years ago, we had CCTVs installed. They've all been accidented. You can see them at various locations, you know, broken out of joint. And we were told when it was launched then that somebody could sit at a command and control center and be monitoring city gate everywhere and so on and so forth. But I don't know what monitoring is going on now with the kind of infrastructure we have.
Smarted.
So, yes. So attitude and aptitude, what role will this play in having sustainable smart cities in Nigeria?
I am aware that in many cities now in Nigeria, there are private estates by private companies which are being managed very smartly. Many of our people live in many of the... We have Sun City, for instance. We have a few other cities in Abuja. These are private initiatives, even though the concept of smart city is just coming in. But somehow, some of these private estates, you know, conform with the whole concept of smart cities. And it is Nigerians living in these other places. So it's not a totally hopeless situation. Like I said, the concept is for the government to popularize it, to get governments and the private sector involved in it. And then we will continue to change. It's not how we were yesterday that we are today. And I believe many more people are getting educated, many more people are getting new jobs, many more people love the good things of life, they will love orderliness and all of that. Of course, the initiative must come from government, and that's exactly what we are doing. I want to use this opportunity, therefore, to invite the private sector to key into this thing. Investors, instead of investing only on industrialization, smart city has even more huge, you know, potentials for money making, for job creation, and all of that. And I want to say that the issue of, you know, attitude and all of that cannot be, you know, a hopeless situation. All right. Of course, the issue of enforcement has also been in this private estate. Of course, laws have been enforced. As you enter, you can't just enter just, you know, without being monitored and all of that in this privacy. So if the private sector is doing that, of course, with the right political will, state governments and city administrators must also try to get things improved upon.
Dr. Ture, are smart cities more expensive to live in?
On the contrary, the alternative to smart city is much more expensive. I mean, the waste management, for instance, gives you the health hazards that are much more costly. The education opportunities for education are much more costly. The management of energy systems is much more costly if you don't go on a smart way. And therefore, you have all to benefit from that. And the environment will be safer. The opportunities for education, health, improving the quality of lives of everyone. So it's much more cheaper to go or to make smart city than do the contrary.
So, come on. How smart should the people be to actually live in and operate in a smart city setup? And what possible hindrances do you see in the realization of this?
A major issue on smartness of people is we believe for Nigerians, I speak about Nigerians, we're smart enough to live anywhere. And you see the way we behave when we go outside the country, even within the country. Pretty smart people. You did mention sometimes we have smart systems that make sure that we are pretty smart. But the issue of enforcement, awareness, those are things that we need to really put in place. Hindrance, a major hindrance will be we building institutions of governance, right, that can manage, monitor, control, enforce rules and regulations, the justice system, the security system. All those things can be a lot of issues if they are not in place. So the government should not get involved in actual implementation. They should just put all the laws in place and enforce them. and allow the private sector to build the cities, manage the cities, and also control the cities. You do that, you're going to have our people living beautifully well. And I can almost predict in the next couple of years, with what Federal Ministry of Communications has started, with what Smart City PLC is doing, people are going to be living very good lives pretty soon.
What investment outlay, because we said, oh, it's an opportunity for investors to come in and so on and so forth. But of course, investors are also looking for opportunities to make profit, and they have to hedge their costs in the first instance as well as their risk. What if we break this down, for instance, what are the areas? People will invest in ICT, people will invest in infrastructure. What will be the major attraction in the smart city development? It's a smart city to say, look, okay, an area has been designated as a smart city, or an area has been designated for urban renewal, or what? How does a person or a potential investor conceptualize of all of this?
It's either you are in it or you are not in it. Yeah. It's either you know it or you do not know it. There's no shortcut into it. It's a very expensive game. It's an infrastructural play. It's a real estate play based on the foundation of technology. It's very expensive to start off with. But I do agree with Dr. Ture. It's more cost-effective to live in a smart city. It's like the police will say, if you have a problem and you think the police are bad, call an armed robber. If you think education is expensive, talk about illiteracy. Smart cities are expensive, but they are necessary. They are compulsory for us to get into.
Cost-effective.
And very cost-effective.
All
and
right.
I believe the returns
Gentlemen, some smart tweeters have actually tried to reach you, and we'll quickly run through what they're trying to tell you on this discussion. Smart cities, this is come from Mike Anyako. Smart cities in Nigeria is a welcome development. The technology will help in curbing criminals. It must not be an avenue of corruption by those involved.
Festus Akinboyewa has this tweet: Nigeria is ripe for smart cities, if only to improve the environment, transportation, connectivity, traffic flow, and security. Smart cities are springing up around the world, and Nigeria should not be left behind, especially in communication, services, security, and environment.
Well, talking about environment, Ibrahim Tudu feels let's get over our environmental problems first before the smart city comes into being.
Fred Ricky tweets, we don't even have good roads. Is ICT going to bring good roads? That will be virtual good roads.
Yeah. From Sunny Michael Omakoji, he said, we cannot talk of smart cities when our power sector is in a very sorry state with no hope of when it will be revived.
Hamzat tweets, smart cities is a welcome development, but I'd like to state to the planners over there to not only use Abuja as a template, but to search for an obtainable urban development, an example, around world cities like Dubai, and you'll find what to do.
Elvis Ikechukwu Ude says it is a welcome development because it will create job opportunities, but do we have the management capacity to sustain it?
And Hamzat tweet says every state appears to have its own master plan. Now, I believe smart cities can work only if we have proper city managers. And he says the major challenge will be the political factor, if they can remove the habit of being self-centered.
Now, from okay, I can pick the person's Twitter handle. The major challenge will be the political factor, if they can remove the habit of being self-centered.
And Obianoju tweets, Kwale village on Pape is the worst. No house number, no plan, no gutter, no name of street, collapsed houses everywhere.
From Obera Honey Matthias, says smart city idea is a nice idea. Please keep it up. You have my support.
Against that tweets, constant environmental impact assessment, especially social impact assessment, should work with orientation, implementation, and security. Well, those are the tweets that we can take on this discussion segment of the idea of smart cities. We'd like to appreciate our three guests who've been with us on the program. Sir Demola Alade Kobo, Chairman, Smart City PLC, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you very much.
Appreciation also to Dr. Hamadu Ture, Executive Director, Smart City Africa Alliance. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. And then the Honorable Minister of Communications, Mr. Adebayo Shitu. Thanks for being on Good Morning Nigeria.
It's my pleasure being here.
All right. Let's go over quickly to our sports desk to check out developments on the world of sports.
Nigerian Ofos Blessing Okagbari and Ase Bumi will fight out this evening champion